Hello, welcome back again to another killer concept. This time is the Gourmet. This one is a killer who will cause chaos among survivors while also empowering themselves, just to make it more fun. So, their basic info is always first, so let's get on with it. This killer is a 4.6 meter squared killer with a tall height. The first one we have had so far in the series. Their terror radius is 24 meters, but only as a base, as your ability can and will change your terror radius. So survivors, better keep an eye out and keep a head on a swivel, otherwise you'll become more than just lunch. Their weapon is either going to be a cleaver or a carving knife. I couldn't quite decide, so let's see what you guys think in the comments. Let's move on to the meat of the killer, their ability, which has multiple different things it can do. It is called Signature Dish, and it allows you to carve into survivors, making them drop meat on the ground, which you do have to pick up yourself. If you don't pick it up as a killer, a survivor is more than willing to pick it up themselves for their benefits. So always remember, once you've attacked people, pick up your rubbish, or in this case, your meal. Once you've picked it up, it takes a few seconds to cook in your inventory until it's ready to be used. But once it's cooked and you can use it, you have multiple things you can do with it. One of two different things. 1. Eat it yourself and give yourself an extra boost of power. Or 2. Feed it to a survivor and cause chaos. We'll go over with what you can do when you eat it yourself first. After all, this is a killer concept, and survivors aren't as important in this minute. When you eat the meat yourself, your terror radius decreases by 1.5 meters, but that is only up to 8 pieces of meat, so you can get your terror radius down to 12 meters, but that's only if you have not got the hunger status active on you. Now, you're wondering what hunger is. It is a new effect that will take place when you play this killer, well, like Condemned with Sadako. Once you've eaten a piece of meat, you'll gain a hunger bar that will slowly increase until you become incredibly hungry, and you will need to take things to eat, or lose your bonuses. For every piece of meat that you eat, not only do you get your 1.5 meters gone down for your terror radius, but you also gain a 4-second haste. And on top of that, your lunge gets increased ever so slightly, just as a bit of a bonus for you. Over time, as you eat more and more meat to gain more powerful for yourself, it also makes it harder to keep up. The more pieces of meat you eat, the quicker your hunger goes up, the more you need to eat. So make sure you've always got spare meat on you, otherwise you'll go back to having a 24 meter terror radius. But you'll still get your speed boosts. Now, onto the survivors part. Like I said, once you've eaten a piece of meat, you will start gaining hunger, and that is the same for survivors. As the killer, you can feed them a piece of meat, either when they've been downed or when they are on the hook. And their hunger, well, let's just say, it affects other survivors a lot more than it will affect you as the killer. Now, the survivors have a few ways to be able to get meat. Either 1, they stun you as a killer when you've got cooked meat on you, and they can pick up the cooked meat and eat it straight away. 2, they can pick up meat that you've left on the ground, or if you have raw meat on you still, it can knock that out your hand and they can take that from you as well. Raw meat isn't able to be eaten by survivors or the killer, it needs to be cooked. There's some stations around the map that allow you to cook up the meat, but it hides it underneath a dome dish. So, unless you know that there is food in there, I wouldn't suggest going to them. Every time you lift up those dishes, your hunger will increase, unless there is food in there. So remember where you're cooking it, unfortunately for survivors. They're not the only ones that can access these areas. A killer can go and open up them as well, and they will eat the meat right away as soon as it opens up, meanwhile survivors will hold it in an inventory slot. similar to the tapes from Sadako. Now, as a survivor, you need to make sure you don't get too hungry, otherwise you'll be a detriment to the rest of your team. When your hunger reaches full and you get too close to another survivor, you'll eat a piece of them to regain your hunger back up to full, but doing so will cause them to go into the deep wound state. Then, the other way you can get some meat is by unhooking someone from the hook. When you are starved, you will eat them as you unhook them. The detriment, though, is that they will lose their invulnerability and their haste. So if you are truly hungry, never unhook someone near the killer. Now, we go on to their perks. And as always, these were thought up as last minute, but I feel like they would make a lot of fun. Right into perk 1. Hex Boiled Alive. This hex activates once one generator has been completed, and every time a survivor moves within a close range of a totem, they will scream, alerting you. Obviously, once it is cleansed, it won't happen anymore, but I feel as though it's a pretty strong one and will give you a lot of alerts where people are. Perk 2 may help. Unbending Desire. When a survivor blesses or destroys a totem, they get inflicted with compulsion. And for those of you who don't know, compulsion is a new status that affects survivors. When afflicted with it, you will have to do an action before you are able to do anything else. Luckily, they're highlighted. If it's hide in a locker, lockers within close proximity will be shown to you. If it's pull down a pallet, pallets will also be shown to you. Like I said though, you can't do anything else until you've done your compulsion. Perk 3 is another Hex perk. Hex Finishing Touches. This activates once all the gates are powered. The exit gates now have a difficult skill check on the last second, and if failed, the progress restarts on the gate. While this hex is on, the exit gate's progress will slowly regress. So you can 99 a gate, but if you take too long getting back to it, you'll have to start opening up again from the very beginning. Now, as always, at the end, here's a small snippet of their lore, just to tease you a little bit. Their lore is that their restaurant got a failing investigation, but the investigator never ended up leaving to report in on it. The Gourmet got them, killed them, chopped them up and cooked them. Obviously they needed to taste their food before they served it, and they loved it. So did all the people in the restaurant. Only problem is, it was very, very addictive. Remember, if you want to know more of their lore, like the video. That tells me that you want a lore video from them, and I will most definitely get on that. Don't forget to comment on anything you would like to be changed about this killer. I left this optional as a he or a she, as I think the Gourmet could be either or. And don't forget that if you want to keep up to date with all these killer concepts coming out, subscribe and hit that bell, and it'll tell you when the next one comes out. It'll also tell you when I release other content too, if you're ever interested. But without further ado, the Cerberus is gonna eat some souls. This killer has definitely made me hungry. Ow!